I'm quitting next week. You'll cover our bills while I regroup. Don't worry, it's temporary. I stared at Sarah's text message, my hands trembling so badly the phone nearly slipped onto my kitchen table. Tuesday morning, 6:47 a.m. The words glowed on the screen like accusations. Not a question, not even a please, just an assumption that I, Sophia Martinez, 66-year-old cardiac care nurse working double shifts to pay my own electric bill, would once again empty my pockets for my daughter-in-law's latest life transition. This would be her 4th job in 3 years. I set the phone down carefully, the way you'd set down something explosive. My coffee had gone cold. Outside my kitchen window, the California sun was just beginning to paint the sky pink and orange, but all I could see was red. Red like the final notice on my mortgage statement. Red like my maxed-out credit cards. Red like my blood pressure must be right now pounding in my temples with each heartbeat. The worst part, I'd seen this coming. Last week, Sarah had casually mentioned that her manager was micromanaging her. 2 weeks before that, she'd complained about the toxic work culture. A month ago, she'd posted on social media about knowing your worth and not settling for less than you deserve. I'd watched this pattern 3 times before. The complaints, the dramatic resignation, the months of finding herself while Jonathan, my son, my beautiful, blindly devoted son, scrambled to cover their bills. And when that wasn't enough, they'd both turn to me with those pleading eyes. "Just this once, Mom. We promise we'll pay you back." I looked around my kitchen. The peeling linoleum I'd been meaning to replace for 5 years. The cabinet door that hung crooked because I couldn't afford a handyman. The empty space where my microwave used to be before it died, and I decided I could live without it. Everything in this house told the story of just this once. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. For 30 seconds, I typed and deleted. Part of me wanted to be reasonable, to ask questions to understand. That's what the old Sophia would have done. The Sophia who believed that being a good mother meant solving every problem, absorbing every crisis, disappearing so others could shine. But something inside me had finally broken, not with a dramatic crack, but with a quiet click, like when a door closes and you just know it will never open the same way again. I typed 3 words. That's your problem. My thumb hovered over the send button. One press and everything would change. One press and I'd be crossing a line I'd never dared to approach in 30 years of single motherhood. I thought about my bank account, $847.23 until next payday. I thought about the email I'd received 6 days ago, the one I'd been too afraid to even consider. The job offer from Vancouver General Hospital. 6 months generous salary, housing included. Start date next Monday. An escape hatch I'd applied for in a moment of desperate fantasy, never believing it would materialize. I pressed send. The message whooshed away into the digital void. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then 3 dots appeared, flickered, disappeared. Sarah was typing. Then she stopped. The silence felt deafening. I opened my email before I could second-guess myself. There it was, RE International Nursing Contract, Vancouver General Hospital. My hands were steadier now as I scrolled through the terms. 6 months, 85,000 Canadian dollars annually. Furnished apartment in the Fairview neighborhood. Full benefits. I'd need to confirm by midnight tonight. The kitchen suddenly felt too small, too full of memories. I could see Jonathan at 5 years old, sitting at this very table doing homework while I made dinner between nursing shifts. I could hear his laughter, smell the birthday cakes I'd baked, feel the warmth of the life I'd built in this house. But I could also feel the weight, the crushing, suffocating weight of being everyone's solution and no one's priority. At 7:15 a.m., I digitally signed the contract. By 7:16, my entire life had pivoted. Let me take you back, because this didn't happen overnight. This was 3 years in the making, or maybe 30 depending on how you count. 15 years ago, when Jonathan was just 16, he used to wash cars in the neighborhood every Saturday. He'd save half his earnings and give me the other half for the bills, Mom. I'd cry in the bathroom after he went to bed, overwhelmed by this thoughtful boy I'd somehow managed to raise alone. His father, Miguel, had died when Jonathan was only 5. Heart attack at 42. One day he was there kissing us both goodbye before his construction shift. The next day he was gone. I worked 2 nursing jobs to keep us afloat. Jonathan never complained. He ate mac and cheese for dinner 4 nights a week without a word. He wore hand-me-downs from the neighbors' kids and told everyone they were vintage. At his 8th grade graduation, he won an award for perfect attendance and a 4.0 GPA. He hugged me afterward and whispered, "This is for you, Mom, for everything." That was the boy I raised. That was the boy who at 26 called me crying because he'd met someone who understood him like no one ever had. Sarah was her name. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. Tall blonde with a smile that could sell anything. She came from money, or at least that's what I thought at first. Their first date was at an expensive Italian restaurant. Jonathan spent $200 he didn't have. "She's worth it, Mom," he told me glowing. 3 months later, he asked to borrow $500. "Sarah's having a tough time with her parents," he explained. "They cut her off because she wants to live her own life. I just need to help her get on her feet." He paid me back in 2 weeks exactly as promised. The second loan was $1,200. Just for Sarah's deposit on a new apartment, Mom. Her roommate situation is toxic. He paid me back again right on schedule. I should have seen it then. Not that he was trying to deceive me, but that he was being deceived. Later I'd find out that Sarah had been cut off by her wealthy parents because she'd run up $15,000 in credit card debt. Designer clothes, luxury handbags, weekend trips to Vegas. Her father, a surgeon in San Francisco, had finally said enough was enough. But Jonathan didn't know that. He saw a woman he loved who needed saving, and he'd learned from the best. Me, the woman who'd spent her whole life saving him. 8 years ago, they got engaged. The ring cost $8,000, nearly 6 months of Jonathan's salary as a junior marketing associate. He was so proud when he showed it to me, his eyes shining with hope. "She said yes, Mom. She said yes." I hugged him, feeling his happiness, but also feeling something else. A cold prickle of unease I couldn't quite name. At their engagement party, Sarah's mother, Barbara, took me aside. She was elegant, cold, perfectly composed. "I hope you're ready," she said, sipping champagne. "Ready for what?" I asked. "To be the family ATM." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "We learned that lesson the hard way. Good luck." She walked away before I could respond. 5 years ago, they got married. Jonathan wanted a small ceremony at the courthouse, but Sarah had always dreamed of a real wedding. I watched my retirement savings, $8,000 I'd spent a decade accumulating, disappear into a single Saturday afternoon. The venue, $3,500. The dress, $2,200. The catering, $1,800. The flowers, the photographer, the cake. All of it, every penny, while I smiled and told everyone I was just so happy for them. At the reception, I sat at a table by myself, eating a $45 slice of salmon I'd paid for watching my son dance with his new wife. She looked like a princess. He looked like a man who'd won the lottery. I looked like a woman who'd just gambled away her future. "We'll pay you back within a year, Mom," Jonathan promised at the end of the night, pulling me into a hug. "I swear, this is the last time I'll ever ask you for anything big." That was 5 years ago. I never saw a penny. 3 years ago, they needed help with the down payment on a 2-bedroom apartment in a trendy neighborhood. $12,000. I took it from what little remained in my retirement account. The penalties for early withdrawal were brutal, but Jonathan said they'd pay me back with interest, Mom. I promise. 6 months later, when I gently asked about repayment, Sarah was there. She looked at me with wide, innocent eyes. "Oh, Sophia, we've been meaning to talk to you about that. Jonathan's been passed over for promotion twice now because of office politics, and I'm barely making ends meet at my job. Could we maybe push that timeline back? Just until we're more stable." I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand my money back, but Jonathan was looking at me with those pleading eyes, and Sarah's hand was on her stomach. Not pregnant, just a gesture of vulnerability. And I heard myself say, "Of course, whenever you can." That was 3 years ago. The pattern became clear. Sarah would quit a job always for a good reason. There would be a financial crisis, and Jonathan would call me. At first it was small. $300 for a car repair, $450 for a medical bill. But then the amounts grew. $1,500 for rent when Sarah was between jobs. $800 for a laptop she needed for her freelance work that never materialized. $2,200 to replace their water heater in the middle of winter. Each time Jonathan would say, "We'll pay you back, Mom. I promise." Each time I'd transfer the money, watching my account dwindle. Each time there was a new excuse why they couldn't pay me back yet. I started cutting corners in my own life. I stopped buying new clothes. My shoes developed holes I covered with insoles. I canceled my cable, my gym membership, my magazine subscriptions. I started buying generic medications and stretching them out, skipping doses to make them last longer. 2 years ago, I had a hypertensive crisis. My blood pressure spiked to 200/110. I thought I was having a heart attack. My coworker Denise drove me to the ER at 3 a.m. They kept me for observation. I was alone in that hospital bed, hooked up to monitors, genuinely scared I might die. I called Jonathan at 7 a.m. when I thought he'd be awake. "Mom?" "Oh my God, are you okay?" His voice was thick with sleep. "I'm at County General. They think it might be a hypertensive crisis." "I'm scared, honey." There was a pause. I could hear Sarah's voice in the background muffled. Then Jonathan again. "Mom, that's so scary. But you're okay now, right? They're taking care of you." "Yes, but Mom, I'm so glad you're okay. Listen, Sarah and I are actually in Santa Barbara for the weekend. We saved up for this trip for months. We're supposed to check out of the hotel in an hour, and we can't get a refund, and I could hear the ocean in the background. I could hear Sarah laughing at something. "It's fine, honey," I heard myself say. "I'm fine. Enjoy your trip." "You sure? We could maybe drive back tomorrow?" No, I'm good. Really." We hung up. I lay in that hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the beep of the monitors, and something inside me went numb. Denise picked me up the next morning. She drove me home, helped me inside, made sure I had food in the fridge. She was the one who took care of me, not my son. "Why do you let them do this to you?" she asked gently, standing in my kitchen. I didn't have an answer. That was when the loans became something else. Not requests anymore, but expectations. Not "can you help us?" but "we need you to help us." The language shifted, and so did my role. I became the family safety net, the emergency fund, the backup plan. And every time I tried to set a boundary, there were tears. Sarah would cry. Jonathan would look devastated. They'd tell me I was making their life so much harder, that they were trying their best, that family helps family. So I'd give in every time, hating myself a little more each time. Last month, I had to choose between buying groceries and paying my electric bill. I chose groceries. The electric company sent a final notice. I paid it 2 days before they were going to shut off my power using money I'd planned to use for my blood pressure medication. I started rationing my pills, taking them every other day instead of daily, hoping it would be enough. That same week, Sarah posted on Instagram from a spa weekend. #selfcare, the caption read. She was getting a massage that probably cost more than my electric bill. I stared at that photo for 10 minutes, feeling something crack inside my chest. After sending that 3-word text and signing the Vancouver contract, I did something I never do. I turned off my phone. Not on silent, not on do not disturb. Off. The sudden silence felt like being underwater. No buzzing, no dinging, no digital demands. Just me sitting in my kitchen, feeling my heartbeat slowly return to normal. I had to go to work. My shift started at 7:30 a.m., and I was never late. 22 years at County General Hospital, and I'd never called in sick unless I was literally unable to stand. I got dressed in my scrubs, moving on autopilot. My hands were still shaking, but it was different now. Not fear. Something else. Something that felt like electricity. At the hospital, I went through my morning routine. Check in at the nurse's station. Review patient charts. Prepare medication carts. Everything normal. Everything routine. Except I felt like I was floating 3 inches above the ground. My coworker Patricia noticed immediately. She's been a nurse longer than I have, a Puerto Rican woman with sharp eyes and zero tolerance for nonsense. "Sophia," she grabbed my arm as I was preparing an IV. "What happened to you?" "What do you mean? You look different. Your face, you look, I don't know, lighter." I almost laughed. Lighter. Yes, that was exactly it. Like someone had removed a boulder from my chest. "I did something this morning," I said quietly, checking to make sure no one else was listening. "I said no to my family." Patricia's eyes widened. She knew the whole story. I'd cried on her shoulder more than once during breaks. "You did what?" "Sarah texted me. She's quitting her job again. She expected me to pay their bills." I took a breath. I said, "That's your problem." Patricia stared at me for a long moment. Then she did something I didn't expect. She hugged me hard right there in the middle of the hallway. "Mija," she whispered, "I'm so proud of you. I also signed a contract to work in Vancouver for 6 months. I leave Monday. She pulled back her hands on my shoulders. Vancouver like Canada, Vancouver. I nodded. Does Jonathan know? Not yet. She laughed a sharp bark of approval. Oh, this is going to be good. At 3 p.m., my shift ended. I'd left my phone off for 8 hours. Part of me was terrified to turn it back on. Part of me wanted to throw it in the trash and never look back. I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot, the California sun beating down through the windshield. My hand hovered over the power button. Just look, I told myself. You don't have to respond. The phone buzzed to life. Immediately, notifications exploded across the screen like fireworks. 47 text messages, 23 missed calls, 7 voicemails, all from Jonathan and Sarah, and from numbers I didn't recognize. I started reading, my chest tightening with each message. Jonathan, 8:47 a.m. Mom, call me now. Jonathan, 9:15 a.m. Mom, this isn't funny. Sarah showed me what you texted. What's going on, Jonathan, 9:52 a.m. Mom, answer your phone. Sarah, new number, 10:30 a.m. I can't believe you'd do this, after everything we've done for you. Unknown number 11:03 a.m. Hi, Sophia, this is Melissa, Sarah's friend. I don't know what's going on, but Sarah is really upset. Can you please call her? Jonathan, 12:15 p.m. Mom, I'm getting worried. Are you okay? Please just respond so I know you're alive. Sarah, another number, 1:47 p.m. You're destroying our marriage. I hope you're happy. Jonathan, 2:33 p.m. Fine, if this is how you want to play it. But just so you know, you're really hurting us right now. I kept scrolling, my eyes blurring with tears I refused to let fall. But then I saw one message that made me stop. Unknown number, 2:50 p.m. Sophia, this is Linda, Sarah's sister-in-law. I don't know what happened, but I think I can guess. Good for you. She pulled this same crap with her parents for years. Someone needed to stand up to her. Stay strong. I read that message 3 times. Linda was married to Sarah's brother. I'd met her twice at family gatherings, a quiet woman with kind eyes who never said much. And here she was reaching out to support me, a near stranger. Maybe I'm not crazy, I thought. Maybe this isn't all in my head. I drove home in a daze. My little house looked the same as always. The faded paint, the garden that needed weeding, the mailbox stuffed with bills. But I saw it differently now. Not as a prison, but as a launching pad. Inside, I made myself dinner. Just scrambled eggs and toast, but I ate slowly, tasting every bite. I poured myself a small glass of wine, something I never did on a weeknight, and sat on my back patio as the sun set. My phone rang. Jonathan's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Mom, his voice cracked. Finally, what is going on? I took a sip of wine, letting the silence stretch. Mom, I'm here, I said calmly. What the hell was that text to Sarah? That's your problem. Really, after everything? After everything, what, Jonathan? He paused, thrown by my tone. I never interrupted him. I never pushed back. After everything we've been through together, after all the times we've been there for you. When? I asked simply. What, yeah, when have you been there for me specifically? Mom, come on, don't do this. I'm serious. Because 2 years ago when I was in the hospital with a hypertensive crisis, you were in Santa Barbara. You didn't come back early. You didn't even visit the next day. That was 6 months ago when my car broke down and I had to take the bus to work for 3 weeks. Did you offer to help? Did you even ask if I was okay? Mom, last Thanksgiving when I hosted dinner and spent $300 I didn't have on food, did you offer to chip in? Or did you just bring Sarah and eat and leave? The silence on the other end was deafening. I've given you nearly $40,000 over the past 3 years, I continued, my voice steady. I've paid for your apartment, your car repairs, your wife's shopping habits. I've skipped my own medications to make sure you had what you needed. I had to choose between groceries and electricity last month. Do you know what that feels like? I didn't know it was that bad. Because you never asked. More silence. So when you say after everything we've been through together, I said what you mean is after everything you've taken from me. That's not fair. Isn't it? I could hear him breathing on the other end, could almost see him pacing their expensive apartment that I'd helped pay for. Sarah is having panic attacks, he said finally. She's really struggling, Mom. She needs support right now. Something snapped inside me. I had panic attacks for 2 years straight, I said, my voice rising. I was taking anxiety medication just to get through my shifts at work. Did you know that? Did you care? I didn't know. Because you never asked, I repeated. You only call me when you need something, Jonathan. When was the last time you called just to see how I was doing? To ask about my day, to tell me you love me without following it up with a request for money. The line went so quiet I thought he'd hung up. I can't believe you're being this selfish, he said finally. That word, selfish. It hit me like a slap, but instead of crumbling, I felt something crystallize inside me. You're right, I said. I'm being selfish. For the first time in 66 years, I'm choosing myself over everyone else. And you know what? It feels amazing. Mom, I'm done, Jonathan. I'm done being your emergency fund. I'm done sacrificing my health and happiness so you can live comfortably. I'm done disappearing so you can exist. What does that mean? It means no more money, no more loans, no more just this once. You and Sarah are adults. Figure it out. You can't do this. We have the apartment lease that you signed, that you promised you could afford. But you're the co-signer. Not anymore. I'm removing myself from all financial obligations to you. You'll get the paperwork this week. I could hear Sarah in the background now, her voice high and panicked. Mom, wait. Can we just talk about this? Can we meet for coffee and— No, I said. I'm not discussing this further. My decision is made. Where are you even going to go? For the first time in our conversation, I smiled. Somewhere you won't find me. I hung up before he could respond. Wednesday morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. without an alarm. My body knew something was different. I made coffee. Real coffee, not the instant kind I'd been buying to save money. I sat at my kitchen table and made a list. The old Sophia would have spiraled into panic. The new Sophia made a plan. To do. Lawyer remove name from apartment lease. Bank close joint account. Work submit formal resignation. House arrange care while gone. Pack simple, concrete, achievable. At 9 a.m., I was sitting in the office of Thomas Wright, attorney at law. His office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service. Not fancy, but his reviews online were solid, and his consultation fee was $150, all I could afford. Thomas was in his late 50s with kind eyes and the slightly rumpled look of someone who cared more about results than appearances. Mrs. Martinez, he said, shaking my hand. You mentioned on the phone this was about family financial obligations. I told him everything. Not crying, not emotional, just the facts. The loans, the co-signing, the promises, the pattern. He listened, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he sat back in his chair and sighed. I'm going to be honest with you, he said. This is complicated. My heart sank. How complicated? The apartment lease. You're a co-signer. Legally, you're as responsible as your son for that rent. You can't just remove your name without the landlord's consent and your son's signature. He'll never sign. Probably not. Thomas tapped his pen on the desk. However, there are steps we can take to protect you going forward. He explained my options. Option 1, get Jonathan to agree to release me from the lease. Unlikely. Option 2, wait for the lease to expire and refuse to renew, but that was 7 months away. Option 3, file what he called a notice of financial disengagement. It's not a perfect solution, Thomas admitted, but we draft a legal document stating that as of a specific date, you are no longer financially responsible for any debts or obligations incurred by your son and daughter-in-law. We send it certified mail to them, their landlord, and any other relevant parties. Will that actually protect me? If they default on rent and the landlord sues, you'd still be technically liable as a co-signer. But you'd have documentation showing you formally withdrew support and notified all parties. It's not a shield, but it's armor. It shows intent and good faith, and most judges look favorably on that. It wasn't what I wanted to hear, but it was reality. Do it, I said. Thomas nodded. There's also the matter of the joint bank account you mentioned. That one's easier. You can close that unilaterally if it's a joint account with right of survivorship. Really? Yes. Go to the bank today. Withdraw your half or close it entirely. You don't need his permission. A small victory, but I'd take it. The paperwork took an hour. I signed form after form, my hand cramping. The retainer fee was $800, money I didn't really have, but money I couldn't afford not to spend. As I was leaving, Thomas stopped me at the door. "Mrs. Martinez, can I give you some unsolicited advice, please? I've been practicing family law for 30 years. I've seen a lot of situations like yours. The hardest part isn't the legal stuff. It's holding the boundary. Your son is going to push back hard. He's going to guilt you, bargain with you, maybe even threaten you. The question is, can you hold firm?" I thought about those 3 words I'd texted. "That's your problem." "Yes," I said. "I can." At 11:30 a.m. I walked into Pacific Coast Bank, the same bank I'd been with for 40 years. The same bank where I'd opened Jonathan's first savings account when he was 7 years old. The teller was a young woman named Ashley. She had bright pink nails and a cheerful smile. "How can I help you today?" "I need to close a joint account." She pulled up my information. "Okay, I see you have a joint checking account with Jonathan Martinez. Can I ask why you're closing it? Personal reasons." "Of course." She typed for a moment, then frowned. "Oh," that one syllable made my stomach drop. "What? Well, the current balance is $347.82. But there are also 3 overdraft fees from last month, so it's actually more like overdraft fees," I interrupted. "I haven't used that account in weeks." Ashley's screen reflected in her eyes. "It looks like there have been several transactions. Large purchases at, let me see, Target, Best Buy, an online retailer called Luxstyle." "Sarah." Of course it was Sarah. "Can you show me the transaction history for the last month?" Ashley printed it out. I stared at the paper, feeling my blood pressure spike. September 3, Target, $487.23. September 7, Best Buy, $1,245. September 12, Luxstyle.com, $892.45. September 18, Nordstrom, $654.31. September 23, ATM withdrawal, $300, over $3,500 in charges. Jonathan and Sarah had drained the account and then some. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Ashley looked concerned. "Close it," I said, my voice shaking. "Close the account. Transfer whatever's left to my personal checking account and close this one. Now." "Of course. I'll need you to sign." "I'll sign anything. Just close it." 10 minutes later, it was done. The joint account that had connected me to Jonathan for 27 years was gone. I walked out of the bank with $347.82 deposited into my personal account and a burning rage in my chest. They hadn't just expected me to pay Sarah's bills. They'd been actively stealing from me. My phone rang. "Jonathan?" I answered. "Mom, what did you do?" His voice was high, panicked. "The bank just called. You closed our account." "My account," I corrected, "that I stupidly made joint for emergencies. We needed that money. For what, designer clothes, electronics, Sarah's shopping addiction, silence." "Jonathan, I saw the transaction history. Over $3,500 in the last month alone. Did you think I wouldn't notice? That wasn't we were going to pay you back." "When?" I shouted, startling an elderly couple walking past me in the parking lot. I lowered my voice. "When were you going to pay me back? Give me one date, one specific date." He had no answer. "That's what I thought," I said and hung up. I made it home by 1 p.m. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, running on fumes. I thought maybe I could rest, maybe have some lunch, maybe... There was a car in my driveway, not Jonathan's. A silver BMW I didn't recognize. My heart started pounding. I almost turned around and left, but this was my house. I'd paid for it. I'd earned it. I parked on the street and walked up slowly. The BMW's door opened. Sarah stepped out. She looked different than the last time I'd seen her, at Easter 5 months ago, thinner, tired. Her designer clothes hung a little loose on her frame. Her hair, usually perfectly styled, was pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup. "Sophia," she said, and her voice cracked. "Please, I need to talk to you." Every instinct told me to get back in my car, but something in her face stopped me. She wasn't angry. She wasn't entitled. She looked broken. "You have 5 minutes," I said, unlocking my front door. We sat in my living room, her on the couch, me in the armchair by the window, creating distance. "Jonathan doesn't know I'm here," Sarah said immediately. "He thinks I'm at a therapy appointment." "Are you in therapy?" "Yes, started last week." She twisted her hands in her lap. "Sophia, I need to tell you something. Something I've never told anyone except my therapist. I waited. I have a gambling problem. Of all the things I expected her to say, that wasn't it. Online poker, she continued, words tumbling out fast now. I started 3 years ago. Just for fun, $20 here, $50 there. But then I started winning and it felt amazing. Like I was good at something. Like I had control. She laughed bitterly. Except I didn't have control. I couldn't stop. I'd win $500 and think just one more hand and lose it all. Then I'd deposit more money trying to win it back. And more. And more. My mind was reeling. How much? $32,000. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm $32,000 in credit card debt. Jonathan doesn't know. Nobody knows except you and my therapist now. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. $32,000? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. That's why I kept quitting jobs. They would do direct deposit, and Jonathan would see my paychecks, and he'd wonder why they were so small. Because I was sending most of my paychecks straight to minimum payments on credit cards he didn't know existed. I had to quit before he found out. The pieces clicked into place. The sudden job changes, the toxic work environments, the constant need for money. So every time I gave you money, I said slowly, it went to my debt or to more gambling. I'm so sorry, Sophia. I'm so sorry. She was sobbing now, mascara running down her face even though she wasn't wearing any makeup. Old mascara, I realized. She was falling apart. I should have felt angry. I should have felt vindicated. But all I felt was sad. Sad for this young woman who'd gotten lost. Sad for my son who'd been lied to. Sad for all of us trapped in this cycle. Does Jonathan know any of this? I asked. I'm telling him tonight. That's why I'm here. I wanted to tell you first. To apologize. To tell you that... She looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. You were right to say no. You were right to cut us off. I needed someone to stop enabling me. I just wish it hadn't taken you destroying yourself to do it. This was twist number 2, the humanization of the villain. Sarah wasn't evil. She was sick. We sat in silence for a long moment. What happens now? I asked. I'm joining Gamblers Anonymous. I found a meeting that runs 3 times a week. I'm going to tell Jonathan everything tonight. The debt, the lying, all of it. And then... I don't know. Maybe he'll leave me. Maybe he should. And the money, I had to ask. The money I gave you. I can't pay you back. Not now. Maybe not ever. I'm sorry. But I wanted you to know where it went. Not to malice, to illness. She stood up, wiping her face with her sleeve. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know the truth and to say thank you. Thank you. For saying no. For showing me that I couldn't just keep using people. For forcing me to hit bottom. She walked to the door, then turned back. I heard you're leaving. Jonathan mentioned it. I hope you find whatever you're looking for. You deserve it. Then she was gone. I sat in my armchair for 20 minutes staring at nothing, processing. Sarah had a gambling addiction. She'd been lying for years. She'd used me, but not out of cruelty, out of desperation. Did that make it better? Did that absolve her? Did that mean I should help? No. The answer was still no. She needed professional help, not my money. And I needed to save myself. My last shift at County General Hospital started at 7 a.m. I'd worked there for 22 years. The cardiac care unit had been my second home. I knew every room, every monitor, every quirk of the old equipment we kept requesting replacements for. I knew which coffee maker in the break room made the best brew, the one on the left, which vending machine shortchanged you. B7 button stuck which supply closet had the best hiding spot for a quick cry, 3rd floor near radiology. Dr. Helen Morrison found me during my morning rounds. She was 62, head of cardiology, and one of the smartest people I'd ever met. She'd been my attending when I first started, and we'd developed a quiet friendship built on mutual respect and shared midnight shifts. Sophia, she said, pulling me aside near the nurse's station. I got your resignation letter. 2 weeks' notice effective Monday. I know it's sudden. It's not about the timing, I'm just surprised. You've been here longer than most of the doctors. Is everything okay? I hesitated. Dr. Morrison had always been kind, but she was still my boss. How much should I say? I accepted a temporary contract in Vancouver, I said carefully. 6 months. It's a good opportunity. She studied my face. That's what you're telling yourself. What's the real reason? Maybe it was because I was leaving. Maybe it was because I was too tired to lie anymore. But I told her the truth. I need to save myself from my family. Dr. Morrison didn't look shocked. She nodded slowly like I'd just confirmed something she'd suspected. Let me tell you something, she said, glancing around to make sure we were alone. 20 years ago, my daughter asked to borrow $50,000 for a business venture. She had this whole plan, this dream. She promised she'd pay me back within 5 years. Did she? No. The business failed in 8 months. She never paid me back a cent. And worse, our relationship was never the same. She resented me for holding it over her head, even though I never mentioned it. I resented her for treating me like a bank. I'm sorry. Don't be. I learned something valuable. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone, even if they're your child. Especially if they're your child. She put her hand on my shoulder. You're doing the right thing, Sophia. I wish I'd had your courage. During my lunch break, Denise cornered me in the break room. Denise was 55, a black woman with zero filter and a heart of gold. We'd worked together for 15 years. So you're really doing it, she said, sitting across from me with her sandwich. You're leaving. Just for 6 months. Bullshit. You're running away, and I'm so proud of you I could cry. I laughed despite myself. It's not running away. It absolutely is, and it's about damn time. She took a bite of her turkey sandwich, chewing thoughtfully. You know what your problem is, Sophia? I have a feeling you're going to tell me. You were raised to believe that being a good woman, a good mother, means disappearing, making yourself smaller so everyone else can be bigger, sacrificing until there's nothing left but bones. Denise, let me finish. I was married for 30 years. 30 years. And you know what I realized when I finally left? My ex-husband never hit me, never cheated, never even raised his voice. But he erased me, slowly, carefully, until I looked in the mirror one day and didn't recognize myself. She leaned forward, her dark eyes intense. That's what your son and his wife were doing to you. Not deliberately, maybe, but the result is the same. You were disappearing. I know. Good. As long as you know, she smiled. Now eat your lunch. You're going to need your strength for what comes next. What came next arrived at 7 p.m. I was home packing boxes when I heard a car door slam outside. Then another. Voices. My doorbell rang. Through the peephole I could see Jonathan, and next to him, swaying slightly. Oh no! I opened the door. Jonathan was holding up a bottle of whiskey half empty. His eyes were red-rimmed. He'd been crying and drinking. Possibly in that order. Mom, he slurred. Can we talk, please? This was twist number 3, the drunk apologetic son, not angry, devastated. Are you drunk? Yes, very. He laughed, a broken sound. Sarah told me everything tonight. The gambling, the debt, the lies, all of it. He stumbled slightly and I caught his arm, guiding him inside. He was a mess. His shirt untucked, his hair disheveled, his face blotchy from crying. I sat him on the couch. He immediately put his head in his hands. I'm so stupid, he said. I'm so stupid. You're drunk. That too. He looked up at me and my heart cracked a little. He looked just like he had at 8 years old when he'd fallen off his bike and scraped his knee. Lost and hurting and looking to me to fix it. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Jonathan. No, let me say this before I sober up and get too embarrassed. He took a shaky breath. I turned into Dad, didn't I? Working obsessively, ignoring all the red flags, expecting you to fix everything behind the scenes. The mention of Miguel startled me. Jonathan rarely talked about his father. Your father was a good man, I said softly. He was, but he worked himself to death, literally, and I watched you hold everything together afterward. You never complained. You never said this is too much. You just did it. And I think I internalized that moms just handle things, that you didn't need help because you were strong enough to do it all alone. Tears were streaming down his face now. But you weren't strong, were you? You were drowning. And I was so busy with my own life, with Sarah, with our problems, that I never looked down and saw you going under. I felt my own tears starting. No, I couldn't cry. Not yet. I'm leaving Monday. I said instead. That doesn't change. I know, Sarah told me. He hiccuped. I don't want you to stay. I want you to go. What? I want you to be happy, Mom. For the first time in my life, I'm looking at you and seeing what I did to you. What we did to you. And I'm ashamed. I'm so ashamed. He stood up, wobbling, and hugged me. A real hug, not the quick one-armed hugs he'd been giving me for years. A tight, desperate hug that said all the things he was too drunk or too proud to say. Go to Vancouver, he whispered into my hair, and don't come back until you're ready. Don't come back for me. Come back for you. We stood there for a long moment, holding each other, both of us crying now. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry I forgot to show it. I love you too, baby. He pulled back, wiping his eyes with his sleeve. I should go. Sarah's waiting in the car. She drove me here. She's staying sober at least. He laughed again, that broken sound. We're a mess, but we're going to fix it. Without your money. We're going to figure it out ourselves. I believe you. Do you? Yes, I said. And I meant it. I do. After he left, I sat on my couch for a long time, feeling the weight of that conversation settle over me. My son had apologized. Really, truly apologized. He'd seen what he'd done. It didn't change my decision to leave, but it made the leaving hurt a little less. I spent the day in practical mode. Logistics, details, things I could control. I went to the post office and filed a change of address. Temporary 6 months. Mail forwarded to a P.O. box in Vancouver. I went to my bank and set up automatic bill pay for my mortgage, utilities, and insurance. Everything on autopilot. I called my neighbor, Mrs. Deborah Turner. She was 73, a retired school teacher who'd lived next door for 30 years. I asked if she'd keep an eye on my house. She said yes immediately. Are you okay, honey? She asked, concern in her voice. I'm going to be, I said. That evening, my best friend Grace arrived. We'd been friends since nursing school 45 years ago. She'd been there for Miguel's funeral. She'd been there when Jonathan was born. She'd been there for everything. Grace was 68 now, with silver hair she wore in a short, stylish cut. She'd retired last year and was living her best life, traveling, taking art classes, dating a nice widower named Bill. She took one look at my face and hugged me without saying a word. Let's get you packed properly, she said. We spent 3 hours going through my closet. Grace was ruthless. When was the last time you wore this? She held up a faded blouse. I don't know. 2018. Trash. She threw it in the donation pile. Grace, Sophia, you're starting a new life. You don't need old clothes from your old life. You need clothes that make you feel good, that fit you, that aren't held together with safety pins and hope. She was right. Most of my wardrobe was ancient, things I'd bought on clearance and worn until they fell apart. We're going shopping tomorrow, Grace announced. My treat. You need at least 3 good outfits for Canada. I can't let you. You can and you will. Consider it a late birthday present, or an early Christmas present, or a congratulations on finally choosing yourself present. She smiled. I'm not taking no for an answer. We ordered pizza. We drank wine. We laughed about stupid things from nursing school. For a few hours, I forgot about Jonathan and Sarah and money and guilt. I was just Sophia sitting with her best friend eating terrible pizza and drinking cheap wine. I'm proud of you, you know, Grace said as we were cleaning up. Everyone keeps saying that. Because it's true. Do you know how many women our age are trapped in situations like yours, giving and giving until they have nothing left? You're breaking the pattern. You're teaching Jonathan something no one ever taught us. What's that? That mothers are people too, that we have limits, that love doesn't mean self-destruction. She hugged me goodnight at the door. This time next week you'll be in Canada, she said. A whole new world, a whole new Sophia. I can't wait to meet her. Grace picked me up at 9 a.m. We went to Target first. Practical clothes, warm layers, comfortable shoes. Then to a small boutique where Grace insisted I try on at least one thing that makes you feel pretty. I ended up with a soft green sweater that actually fit properly, and jeans that weren't from 2010, and boots that didn't have worn-down heels. You look beautiful, Grace said when I modeled the full outfit. I looked at myself in the mirror. I did look different. Not younger, not trying to be something I wasn't. Just cared for, like someone who mattered. Thank you, I whispered. We had lunch at a small cafe. Grace told me about Bill, her boyfriend. They were talking about taking a cruise to Alaska. You should come, she said. Next summer after your contract ends. The idea of next summer felt surreal, like talking about life on Mars. But I smiled and said, maybe I will. That afternoon, Grace dropped me off at home. I spent the rest of the day finishing packing. 1 suitcase, 1 carry-on. My whole life condensed into 2 bags. As the sun set, I walked through my house, touching the walls, looking at the photos, saying goodbye to the Sophia who'd lived here for 28 years. She'd been a good woman, a loving mother, a dedicated nurse, but she'd also been disappearing 1 sacrifice at a time. The Sophia getting on that plane Monday morning would be different. Lighter, freer, whole, my last day. I went to the cemetery where Miguel was buried. I hadn't been in months. Too busy working, too busy surviving. His headstone was simple, Miguel Rodriguez Martinez, beloved husband and father, 1965 to 2007. I sat on the grass next to his grave and talked to him like I used to. I'm leaving tomorrow, I said. Going to Canada. 6 months, maybe more. I don't know. The wind rustled through the trees. A bird sang somewhere nearby. Jonathan is in trouble. Sarah is sick. They've been using me as their safety net, and I finally let go. I said no. And I feel guilty, Miguel. I feel so guilty. What kind of mother abandons her child? Silence. But I also feel free. For the first time since you died, I feel like I can breathe. Is that selfish? Am I terrible? More silence. But I imagined what Miguel would say. He'd been a gentle man, a quiet man, but with a core of steel. He'd tell me to go. He'd tell me to live. He'd tell me that I'd given enough. I'll come back, I promised. I don't know when, but I will. And when I do, I'll be stronger. I'll be whole. I'll be me again. I kissed my fingertips and pressed them to his headstone. Thank you for Jonathan. Thank you for the years we had. And please don't judge me for this. I stood up, brushing grass off my jeans. As I walked back to my car, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me. Hello? Sophia, this is Beverly, Miguel's sister. I hadn't spoken to Aunt Beverly in years. She lived in Oregon, had her own life, her own family. We exchanged Christmas cards. That was it. Beverly, hi, how are you? I'm fine, honey. Listen, I heard through the family grapevine that something happened between you and Jonathan. I'm calling because I need to tell you something. Okay? Thank you. Her voice cracked with emotion. Thank you for doing what I couldn't. I don't understand. My brother, your Miguel, he died because he couldn't say no to people. He worked double shifts, triple shifts, killed himself trying to provide for everyone who asked. His boss, his friends, his family. Everyone wanted a piece of Miguel, and he gave and gave until his heart literally gave out. I'd never thought about it that way. I watched him die from overwork, Beverly continued. And I swore I'd never let anyone in my family do that again. When I heard what you did, setting boundaries, choosing yourself, I wanted to call and say you're breaking the cycle. You're teaching Jonathan something Miguel never learned. That it's okay to say no. That you can love people without killing yourself for them. That's the greatest gift you could give him. We talked for 20 more minutes. She told me stories about Miguel as a boy, how he'd give away his lunch to kids who forgot theirs, how he'd work odd jobs to help their mother pay bills, how that generosity, that inability to say no had been with him from childhood. But you're different, Beverly said. You're choosing differently, and I'm so proud of you. When we hung up, I sat in my car for a long time, not crying, just thinking. Miguel had died at 42. His heart had given out under the weight of everyone else's expectations. I was 66. My heart was still beating. My alarm went off, but I was already awake. I'd been lying in bed since 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. This was it. No more delays. No more second-guessing. I got up, showered, dressed in my travel clothes. Green sweater, comfortable jeans, good boots. I looked in the mirror and almost didn't recognize myself. The taxi arrived at 5:15 a.m. The driver was an older man, maybe early 70s, with kind eyes. Airport, he confirmed. Airport, I said. As we pulled away from my house, I didn't look back. If I looked back, I might falter. I might change my mind. I might turn into a pillar of salt like Lot's wife. So I looked forward toward the sunrise, painting the sky pink and gold. The airport was quiet at this hour. Early morning travelers nursing coffee, looking rumpled and tired. I checked my bag, got my boarding pass, went through security. Gate 42, boarding at 6:30 a.m. for the 7 a.m. flight to Vancouver. I bought coffee and a breakfast sandwich I was too nervous to eat. I sat at the gate watching people, a young family with 2 small children, a businessman in an expensive suit typing on his laptop, a group of college students excited for some trip. All of them with their own stories, all of them going somewhere, just like me. At 6:15 a.m. an announcement came over the loudspeaker. Attention passengers on Flight 1847 to Vancouver. We're experiencing a mechanical issue and will have a maintenance delay. New boarding time will be approximately 9:30 a.m. We apologize for the inconvenience. A collective groan went through the gate area. The businessman cursed under his breath. The mother with the small children looked like she might cry. I just sat there feeling the universe testing me. 3 hours. 3 hours to sit in this airport and think. 3 hours to second guess. 3 hours to change my mind. I could go home. The taxi fare would be expensive but manageable. I could walk back through that door, unpack my suitcase, call Jonathan and say, I changed my mind. Everything could go back to normal. Except normal had been killing me. I took out my phone. Against my better judgment, I checked my messages. Jonathan, 11:47 p.m. Have a safe flight, Mom. I mean it. Sarah, 12:03 a.m. Thank you for everything. I promise I'll get help. Jet 4:15 a.m. You've got this, warrior woman. Denise, 5:32 a.m. The first step is always the hardest. Keep walking. I felt tears prick my eyes, but I didn't turn back. Instead, I opened the journal Grace had given me. The first page was blank, waiting. I started writing Monday, October 23rd, the day I chose myself. I'm sitting in the airport. My flight is delayed 3 hours. Part of me thinks this is a sign I should go home, but I'm not going home. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. I'm scared. Terrified, actually. I'm 66 years old, and I'm starting over in a foreign country. That's insane, right? But staying felt more insane. Staying felt like dying slowly. So I'm going. I'm flying towards something new, something unknown, something just for me. If I don't make it, if I crash and burn, at least I'll have tried. At least I'll have chosen. At 9:45 a.m., they finally called for boarding. I was in Group 3. I stood in line with my carry-on, my purse, my journal. A woman next to me smiled. Vancouver, she asked. Yes. You home, she said. I live there. You visiting or working, actually. 6-month nursing contract. Oh, you'll love it. Vancouver's beautiful. Rainy but beautiful. We chatted as the line moved forward. Her name was Emma. She was 32, worked in marketing, had left her toxic family 5 years ago, and never looked back. Best decision I ever made, she told me. First year was hell. Guilt, loneliness, all of it. But now I have a life. My life. Do you regret it? I had to ask. Not for a second. We boarded. I was in a window seat, 23A. Emma was a few rows back. The plane filled up slowly. As the flight attendants did their safety demonstration, I looked out the window at California. My home for 66 years. The place where Miguel died, where Jonathan was born, where I'd built my entire life. I was leaving it behind. The engines roared. The plane started moving slowly at first, then faster. The ground fell away. We were airborne. The first hour of the flight was smooth. I read my book, tried to relax, watched the clouds below us like a cotton ocean. The flight attendant came by with drinks. I ordered ginger ale, sipped it slowly, feeling the bubbles on my tongue. I was doing this. I was really doing this. And then the turbulence hit. Not the gentle bounce of normal air pockets. This was violent. The plane dropped suddenly, my stomach lurching. Overhead, bins rattled. The woman across the aisle gasped. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain," came the voice over the intercom, trying to sound calm. "We're experiencing some rough air. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened." The plane jerked again, harder this time. My ginger ale sloshed in its cup. Someone behind me whimpered. I gripped the armrests, my knuckles white, thinking this is it. This is how I die. I finally choose myself, and I die in a plane crash before I even get there. The turbulence got worse. The plane shook like it was in the hands of an angry god. Lightning flashed outside my window. We were in a storm. Is this a sign? I thought wildly. Is the universe telling me I made a mistake? The plane dropped again, that sickening feeling of freefall. Someone screamed. And suddenly I was angry. Not scared. Angry. I'd spent 66 years living in turbulence. Emotional turbulence. Financial turbulence. Family turbulence. I'd spent my whole life being shaken and thrown around, holding on tight, waiting for it to stop. It never stopped. But I kept holding on, thinking if I just held on tight enough, if I was just strong enough, patient enough, self-sacrificing enough, eventually the turbulence would end and everything would be smooth. That was a lie. The turbulence never ended. Life was turbulent. Relationships were turbulent. Being alive was turbulent. The question wasn't how to avoid turbulence. The question was, what do you do in the middle of it? Do you hold on so tight you break? Do you make yourself small and hope the storm passes over you? Do you sacrifice everything trying to keep others calm while you're falling apart? Or do you breathe through it? Do you accept that this is scary but temporary? Do you trust that the plane and you are stronger than you think? I loosened my grip on the armrests. I took a deep breath. The plane shook again hard, but I didn't clench up. I just breathed. This is temporary, I told myself. This will pass, and I will survive it. And just like that, the turbulence began to ease. The shaking slowed. The plane steadied. The angry roar of wind quieted. 10 minutes later, we were back in smooth air. The captain came back on. Ladies and gentlemen, we've cleared the storm. The rest of the flight should be smooth sailing. We apologize for that rough patch. I looked out the window. We were above the storm now. Below us, I could see the dark clouds we'd just passed through. But up here, the sun was shining. The sky was impossibly blue. It was always sunny above the clouds. You just had to be brave enough to fly through the storm to get there. The rest of the flight was quiet. I dozed a little, read a little, watched the landscape change below us. California giving way to Oregon, Oregon to Washington, Washington to Canada. My phone buzzed as we began our descent. I'd left it in airplane mode, but a text had come through before I switched it off. Jonathan, I love you, Mom. Thank you for teaching me what boundaries look like. Sarah and I are enrolling in couples therapy, and I got a second job. Uber nights and weekends. We're going to figure this out without you. I promise. I read it 3 times, feeling my heart crack and heal simultaneously. My son was growing up, finally, and it had taken me leaving for him to start. We landed at Vancouver International Airport at 1:47 p.m. local time. I gathered my things, filed off the plane with the other passengers, walked through those long airport corridors that all look the same no matter what country you're in. Customs, immigration, baggage claim. The officer at customs looked at my passport, at my work visa, at me. Purpose of visit, work, nursing contract. How long? 6 months. He stamped my passport. Welcome to Canada. Such simple words, but they felt monumental. Welcome to Canada. Welcome to a new life. Welcome to yourself, Sophia. I collected my suitcase and walked into the arrivals area. There was a woman holding a sign with my name, Sophia Martinez, Vancouver General Hospital. She was about 40 with a friendly smile and warm eyes. Sophia, I'm Rebecca Foster, Hospital Coordinator. Welcome, how was your flight? Turbulent, I said, but I made it through. Well, you're here now. Let's get you home. Home. Such a strange word. I'd just left home. This wasn't home. But maybe I thought as I followed Rebecca to her car, home wasn't a place. Maybe home was wherever you felt like yourself. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I felt like myself. Rebecca drove me through downtown Vancouver, pointing out landmarks as we went. The mountains in the distance, the water everywhere, the clean streets and modern buildings. Your apartment is in Fairview, she explained. Quiet neighborhood close to the hospital. Good coffee shops, grocery stores, everything you need. Everything I needed. Such a simple concept, but I realized I'd forgotten what that even meant. For years, what I needed had been whatever was left after everyone else took what they wanted. The apartment was on the 3rd floor of a modest building. Rebecca helped me carry my bags up. She unlocked the door and handed me the keys. It's small, she said apologetically, but it's yours for the next 6 months. I stepped inside. She was right. It was small. Maybe 400 square feet. A studio with a kitchenette, a bathroom, a single bed against one wall, a small desk, and a window overlooking a park. But it was clean. It was quiet. And most importantly, it was mine. Only mine. The hospital provides bedding dishes, basic furniture, Rebecca continued. If you need anything else, just let me know. Your first shift is tomorrow at 7 a.m. I'll pick you up at 6:30 to show you around. That would be perfect. Thank you. After she left, I stood in the middle of my tiny apartment and burst into tears. Not sad tears, relief tears, overwhelmed tears. I can't believe I actually did it tears. I unpacked slowly, putting my clothes in the small closet, my toiletries in the bathroom cabinet. The framed photo of Miguel went on the nightstand, young, smiling before life wore him down. The journal Grace gave me went on the desk. It was 4 p.m. I was exhausted from travel, from stress, from the emotional whiplash of the last week. But I was also hungry. I ventured out to find food. The grocery store was 3 blocks away. Canadian grocery store, Canadian brands, Canadian prices. I walked the aisles doing math in my head, converting CAD to USD, feeling my anxiety spike with every item I picked up. A loaf of bread, $4.50 CAD. Eggs, $6.99. Milk, $5.49. Everything was expensive. Vancouver was expensive. The salary was good, but after rent was covered and taxes taken out, my actual take-home pay would be tight. This was the realistic struggle. Not everything magically perfect. I bought the basics: bread, eggs, milk, coffee, some vegetables, rice. At the checkout, the total was $78.43 Canadian, nearly $60 US, for one bag of groceries. I handed over my credit card, holding my breath, hoping it wouldn't decline. It went through. Barely. Walking back to my apartment, I felt the weight of reality settling in. Yes, I'd escaped. Yes, I was free. But freedom wasn't free. It cost money I didn't have much of. It cost being alone in a foreign country where I knew no one. It cost leaving behind everything familiar. Was this really better? I made scrambled eggs for dinner. The same meal I'd eaten alone in California. Different kitchen, same loneliness. Before bed, I checked my phone. Several messages waiting. Grace, you made it, so proud of you. Call me when you can. Denise, how's Canada? Don't forget us little people when you're living your best life up there. Jonathan, did you land safe? Please let me know you're okay. I responded to Grace and Denise with brief updates. To Jonathan, I wrote, I'm here, I'm safe. I need some time before we talk. I love you. His response came immediately. I understand. I love you too, Mom. I turned off my phone and climbed into bed. The sheets smelled like industrial laundry detergent. The mattress was harder than I was used to. Outside, unfamiliar city sounds. Sirens, voices, the rumble of buses. I'd never felt more alone in my life. But I'd also never felt more myself. My first shift at Vancouver General Hospital was overwhelming. Everything was different. The computer system, the medication protocols, the documentation requirements. Even the measuring system, kilograms instead of pounds Celsius, instead of Fahrenheit. My brain, accustomed to 22 years of routine at County General, struggled to adapt. I was assigned to the cardiac care unit, my specialty at least. The head nurse was Patricia Wong, a no-nonsense woman in her mid-50s who spoke quickly and expected you to keep up. You'll shadow Nurse Priya today, Patricia said during morning rounds. Tomorrow you're on your own. Priya was 38, originally from India, with kind eyes and infinite patience for my questions. She showed me where supplies were kept, how to log into the system, which doctors were easy to work with and which ones were less so. Don't worry, she said during our lunch break. First week is always rough. You'll get it. But on my third day, I made a mistake. I was entering medication orders for a patient with congestive heart failure. The dosage was listed in milligrams, but I mentally converted it wrong. A moment of exhaustion, of brain fog, of my 66-year-old mind trying to do too much. I typed in the wrong number. The system flagged it immediately. Safety protocols caught my error before it reached the patient. But I'd still made a mistake. A potentially serious one. Patricia called me into her office. Sophia, I saw the incident report. Want to tell me what happened? My hands were shaking. I converted the dosage wrong. I'm so sorry. I caught it before the system caught it, Patricia corrected. Not you. Shame washed over me, hot and suffocating. I'm sorry. I know I'm old. I know I'm slow. I know... Stop. Patricia held up her hand. You're not old. You're adjusting. There's a difference. But I need to know, are you okay? Because you look exhausted. I was exhausted. I hadn't slept properly since arriving. The time difference, the stress, the loneliness, it was all catching up. I'm fine, I lied. You're not fine, and that's okay. But you can't work safely if you're not taking care of yourself. She leaned back in her chair. Take tomorrow off. Paid. Get some rest. Come back Friday ready to work properly. I don't need... It's not optional. Go home, Sophia. Sleep. I spent my unexpected day off exploring the neighborhood. Walked along the seawall at False Creek. Found a small library. Discovered a coffee shop called Bean Around the World where a barista named Jake made perfect cappuccinos. You're new here, Jake observed not as a question but a statement. He was maybe 25 with tattoos and a friendly smile. That obvious, you have that lost tourist look, but don't worry, Vancouver grows on you. How long does that take? He laughed. For me, about 6 years. But I'm from Saskatchewan, so anywhere with an ocean is an upgrade. I became a regular at that coffee shop. Every morning before my shift, I'd stop in. Jake would have my cappuccino ready before I reached the counter. The usual, Sophia. The usual. Small routines, small connections. They mattered more than I expected. At work, I slowly found my rhythm. Priya and I started having lunch together. She'd been in Canada for 8 years, leaving behind an abusive marriage in Chennai. First year I cried every single day, she told me over sandwiches in the hospital cafeteria. I thought I'd made a terrible mistake, that I should go back, try harder, make it work. What changed? I woke up one morning and realized I hadn't cried in a week, then a month, then I couldn't remember the last time. The pain doesn't disappear, Sophia. It just gets smaller, more manageable. I wanted to believe her. Week 3, the loneliness. By week 3, I had a routine. Wake up at 5:30 a.m., coffee at Bean Around the World. Work from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Walk home along the seawall. Make simple dinners. Read. Journal. Sleep. Repeat. It was peaceful. It was also crushingly lonely. I'd underestimated how much of my identity had been wrapped up in being needed. In being someone's mother, someone's solution, someone's safety net. Here I was, just Sophia, a competent nurse, a polite neighbor, a regular customer. Nobody needed me, and I didn't know how to exist without being needed. One evening I called Grace. "How's the great Canadian adventure?" she asked cheerfully. "Lonely," I admitted. "Really, really lonely." "Good. Good as Sophia, you spent 66 years surrounded by people who needed you. You never had a chance to figure out who you are without all that noise. Loneliness isn't punishment. It's opportunity." Opportunity for what? To meet yourself, really meet yourself. Not Sophia the mother or Sophia the nurse or Sophia the problem solver. Just Sophia. I don't know who that is. Exactly. So now you get to find out. By my 4th week, I received my first paycheck. $6,458.33 for 2 weeks of work. After taxes and the apartment stipend deduction, $4,200 take home. More money than I'd seen in my account in years. I sat at my tiny desk, looking at my bank app, feeling something shift inside me. For the first time in 3 years, I wasn't behind. I wasn't choosing between bills. I wasn't skipping medications to afford groceries. I was okay. I paid my California mortgage, paid utilities, set aside money for prescriptions, and still had $200 left over. I opened a new savings account, named it Sophia's Future, deposited $1,500. It felt revolutionary. That weekend I bought flowers, yellow chrysanthemums from a street vendor, put them on my desk in a recycled jar. They made me smile every time I looked at them. I also bought a yoga mat. There was a free class in the park on Sunday mornings. I went feeling self-conscious among people half my age doing poses I couldn't manage. But the instructor, an older woman named Margaret, smiled at me afterward. "First time? Is it that obvious? Only because you're the only one not checking your phone every 5 minutes. Come back next week. It gets easier." I did go back, and it did get easier. Small victories, small joys, small moments of feeling like I was building something just for me. Week 6, I should have known it was coming. The crash after the adrenaline, the body's rebellion after years of abuse. It started with a headache. then a sore throat, then chills that no amount of blankets could warm, the flu, a bad one. I called in sick to work, something I almost never did. Patricia was understanding. Rest. We'll see you when you're better. But lying alone in my apartment, feverish and miserable, I realized something terrifying. I had no one. If I got seriously ill, who would check on me? Who would bring me soup? Who would make sure I was okay? In California, despite everything, I'd had people. Grace, Denise, my neighbors, even Jonathan on his better days. Here I had no one. By day 3, I was barely functioning. Fever over 102. Couldn't keep food down. Too weak to walk to the store for medicine. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling thinking, this was a mistake. I should go home. Around 6 p.m. there was a knock at my door. I dragged myself up, wrapped in a blanket, opened it. Priya stood there with 2 grocery bags. You look terrible, she said matter-of-factly. How did you— Patricia told me you were sick. I figured you probably don't have anyone to bring you supplies. She walked past me into the apartment, started unpacking soup crackers, ginger ale, cold medicine tissues. Priya, you didn't have to. I know what it's like to be sick and alone in a new place. No one should go through that. She opened the soup, poured it in a pot, started heating it up. Go lie down. I'll bring this to you. I started crying. Couldn't help it. Exhausted, feverish, overwhelmed by this unexpected kindness. Priya brought me soup in bed, made me take medicine, put a cold cloth on my forehead. Thank you, I whispered. You're welcome. Now rest. I'll check on you tomorrow. She did, and the next day, and the next. This was the subplot developing. Real friendship, not transactional. By the end of the week, I was recovered, and I'd learned something crucial. Asking for help didn't make me weak. Accepting kindness didn't make me a burden. I was settling into a rhythm. Work was good. I'd made friends with Priya, with Jake at the coffee shop, with Margaret from yoga. I was saving money, sleeping through the night. My blood pressure medication was working properly because I was actually taking it consistently. For the first time in years, I felt good. And then my phone rang at 2:37 a.m. on a Tuesday. Jonathan's name flashed on the screen. My heart stopped. Nobody calls at 2:37 a.m. with good news. Hello? Mom? His voice was wrecked, raw, terrified. Mom, I need, Jonathan, what happened? Are you okay? It's Sarah. She's Mom. She's in the hospital. She took pills. A lot of pills. They pumped her stomach, but the world tilted. Is she alive? Yes. But Mom, I'm so scared. I don't know what to do. I can't. I need you to come home, please. Every instinct in my body screamed. Book a flight. Go home. Fix this. I'd been a mother for 34 years, and mothers don't abandon their children in crisis. But then I heard Grace's voice in my head. Can you save them, or will you just drown with them? Jonathan, I said carefully, what happened exactly? Through tears and broken sentences, he told me. Sarah had seemed better after starting GA meetings, but yesterday she'd relapsed. Lost $8,000 gambling online, money they didn't have, money borrowed from a predatory loan place at 40% interest. When Jonathan found out they'd fought, badly, he'd said things. She'd said things. He'd left to cool down. When he came back 3 hours later, she was unconscious on the bathroom floor, empty pill bottle next to her. The doctors say she needs inpatient treatment. Psychiatric hold, then rehab. Real rehab, 30 days minimum. But our insurance won't cover it all, and the out-of-pocket is $12,000, and you want me to pay for it. Silence. Jonathan, I'm not coming home. What? My hands were shaking. My heart was racing, but my voice was steady. I'm not coming home, and I'm not paying for rehab. Mom, she tried to kill herself. I know, and I'm heartbroken for her, and for you. But me coming home won't fix this. Me paying for rehab won't fix this. This is bigger than money. This is bigger than me. How can you say that she's your daughter-in-law? She's sick, Jonathan. Really, truly sick. And she needs professional help. Not my money, not my presence. Professional help. But the cost? Call her parents. They're doctors. They have resources. She's estranged from them. Then she needs to unestrange herself. She needs to face her demons, including her family. And you. I took a deep breath. You need to learn that you can't save someone who won't save themselves. Trust me, I learned that lesson the hard way. I can't believe you're doing this. Sarah could have died and you're... I'm setting a boundary. I'm telling you that I love you, but I can't fix this. I won't fix this. Because every time I fix things for you, I've prevented you from growing. I've enabled you to stay dependent. I've hurt you by helping you. I was crying now, full ugly sobs. I'm not coming home, Jonathan, but I will do one thing. I'll give you the $5,000 for Sarah's treatment. Not to you. I'll pay the facility directly once she's admitted. That's all. That's the boundary. That's not enough. It's what I can give without destroying myself. Take it or leave it. You're choosing yourself over us. Yes, I am. And someday I hope you'll thank me for it. I hung up, and then I collapsed on my bed and wept for an hour straight. My 67th birthday. I woke up alone in my Vancouver apartment. Gray rain drizzled outside. For a moment I felt profoundly sad. Birthdays used to mean family cake celebration. Now it meant nothing. But then my doorbell rang. Priya stood there with a coffee and a bag of pastries. "Happy birthday," she said, pushing past me into the apartment. "You didn't think I forgot, did you?" We had breakfast together. She gave me a small gift, a beautiful scarf, teal and silver, that she said brought out my eyes. At work, Patricia and the team had decorated the nurses' station with balloons. Jake from the coffee shop had drawn a birthday message on my cup. Margaret from yoga gave me a card signed by the whole class. These people barely knew me, but they'd made me feel seen. That evening I had a video call scheduled. Jonathan had asked for it a week ago. I'd agreed nervously. At 7 p.m. Vancouver time, I opened my laptop, clicked the video link. Jonathan's face appeared on screen, and next to him, Sarah. They both looked different. Jonathan had lost weight, but in a healthy way. His eyes were clear. Sarah looked tired, but calm. Her hair was pulled back simply. No makeup. She looked real. "Hi, Mom," Jonathan said softly. "Hi, baby. Happy birthday." "Thank you." An awkward silence. Then Jonathan took a deep breath. "Mom, we wanted to show you something. To tell you something." He panned the camera around. They were in a different apartment. Smaller, simpler. IKEA furniture, nothing fancy. "We moved," he said. 2-bedroom in a cheaper neighborhood. $800 less per month in rent. We sold most of our stuff, paid off some debts. Sarah spoke next, her voice quiet but steady. "I've been in outpatient treatment for 5 weeks now. 3 GA meetings a week. Individual therapy twice a week. I'm 90 days clean from gambling." She held up a chip, the kind they give in 12-step programs. "My parents and I are talking again," she continued. "It's hard. There's a lot of damage, but we're working on it. They helped with the treatment costs." Jonathan turned the camera back to himself. "I've been in therapy too, learning about codependency, about enabling, about..." He swallowed hard. "About how I treated you." "Jonathan..." "No, let me say this." He looked directly at the camera. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't see you as a person. I saw you as a resource. An ATM, like Sarah said. And that's not love. That's not family. That's abuse." Sarah nodded. "We abused you, both of us. Maybe not physically, but financially, emotionally. We took and took until you had nothing left. And we told ourselves it was okay because family helps family. But that's not what we were doing. We were using you." I was crying. They were crying. All of us across thousands of miles, finally being honest. "Your leaving was the best thing you could have done," Jonathan said. "For all of us. It forced me to grow up. It forced Sarah to face her addiction. It forced us to build a real life instead of one propped up by your sacrifice." "Do you hate me for leaving?" I had to ask. "No." He smiled, sad but genuine. "I'm grateful. You taught me the most important lesson, that I'm not the center of the universe. That you're a person with needs and limits. That love doesn't mean self-destruction." Sarah added, "You showed me what real boundaries look like. My parents never set them. They enabled me until they couldn't anymore, then cut me off completely. You did something harder. You set limits while still loving him. That's what I need to learn to do." We talked for another hour. They told me about their progress, their struggles, their small victories. finding cheaper grocery stores, learning to cook at home, Jonathan's second job, Sarah's new job at a call center. Not glamorous, but steady. They asked about my life. Really asked what Vancouver was like, if I'd made friends, what I did on weekends. They saw me. Finally, they saw me. When will you come visit? Jonathan asked. I don't know, I said honestly. My contract ends in February. Maybe then, maybe later. I'm still figuring out who I am without being everyone's solution. I understand. Just know, whenever you're ready, we'll be here, and we won't ask you for anything except your company. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet of my apartment. Outside, the Vancouver rain had stopped. The sky was clearing, stars beginning to appear. I opened my journal. Wrote November 15th. Today I turned 67. I'm alone but not lonely. I'm far from home but more myself than I've ever been. My son is growing up. His wife is getting help. They're learning to stand on their own. And me, I'm learning that I can love them without drowning in them. That's enough. That's everything. My 6 months in Vancouver flew and crawled simultaneously. Days blended together. Work walks, coffee yoga, small routines that built a life. I'd saved $8,000. Real savings. Money that was mine that nobody else had claimed to. Vancouver General offered me a permanent position. Better salary, full benefits, a real apartment instead of temporary housing. The same week, County General in California reached out. They'd heard I was returning and wanted me back. Jonathan called. Mom, I'd love if you came back to California, but only if that's what you want. I stood in my Vancouver apartment, no longer tiny, now cozy. My flowers on the desk, my yoga mat in the corner, Priya's number on speed dial, Jake knowing my coffee order, Margaret saving me a spot in Sunday yoga. I'd built a life here, but California had Miguel's grave. Jonathan, Grace, Denise, my house, my history. I had 2 homes now, 2 lives. I decided to stay in Vancouver for 1 more year, to solidify this new self, to make sure I was strong enough to return without falling into old patterns. I'm staying, I told Jonathan, but I'm coming to visit for Christmas, and I'll be back eventually. This isn't forever. I'm proud of you, Mom. I'm proud of you, too. I was walking along the Vancouver seawall at sunset, my favorite time when the sky turned pink and gold and the water reflected it all back like a mirror. My phone rang. Grace. Sophia, are you sitting down? I'm walking, but Jonathan sent me a video. You need to see this. She texted it to me. I stopped walking, pressed play. It was Jonathan and Sarah in what looked like a courthouse. Official, formal. And then the camera panned to show a social worker holding a small child. A little girl, maybe 2 years old, with dark curls and big eyes. Mom, Jonathan said into the camera, his voice thick with emotion. Meet Emma Rodriguez Martinez. We've been fostering her for 6 months. The adoption finalized today. You're a grandmother. I watched the video 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Later that night on video call, I met my granddaughter. She was shy, hiding behind Jonathan's shoulder. But when he said, Emma, this is Grandma Sophia, she waved. 1 small hand, 5 tiny fingers. A wave that said, you're part of our family. When can you visit? Jonathan asked. Christmas. I'll be there for Christmas. We can't wait. I stood in Jonathan's small apartment, the IKEA furniture, the secondhand decorations, the humble tree. Sarah was in the kitchen making dinner. Real dinner cooked from scratch, nothing fancy but made with care. Emma sat on the floor playing with blocks. She looked up at me, those big eyes assessing. Grandma, she said tentatively. Yes, sweetheart. I'm your grandma. She held up a block. Play. I sat down on the floor, my 68-year-old knees protesting, and played blocks with my granddaughter. Jonathan watched from the doorway, smiling. You look happy, Mom. I am happy. Different than before. I am different than before. He sat down next to me, picking up a block. Thank you. For what? For leaving. For showing me that love doesn't mean disappearing. For teaching me that I had to save myself. He stacked blocks carefully. For being the kind of mother who loved me enough to let me fall so I could learn to stand. I squeezed his hand. You know what I learned, I said. What now? That I can love you with everything I have and still love myself. That those 2 things aren't mutually exclusive. I spent 66 years thinking they were. That being a good mother meant erasing myself. But it doesn't. No, he agreed. It doesn't. Emma knocked over the tower of blocks, laughed. Again? We built it again, together. It's been 14 months since I sent that 3-word text, "That's your problem." 14 months since I chose myself. The old Sophia died that day. The Sophia who said yes to everything, who disappeared so others could exist, who believed her only value was in what she could give. The new Sophia is still learning, still growing, still figuring out who she is without all that noise. But she's alive. Really, truly alive. I'm going back to Vancouver after New Year's. My apartment there, my job, my routines, my friends. But now I know California is here when I'm ready. I have 2 homes, 2 lives, and most importantly, I have myself. That message ended everything, but it also started everything. And I discovered that real peace isn't loud. It doesn't come with applause or external validation. It comes in quiet mornings when you wake up without dread, in deep breaths that don't hurt, in looking in the mirror and recognizing yourself. True peace is silent, and maybe that's why it took me 66 years to find it, because I was looking for it in the noise when it was always waiting in the silence.